Valenzuela in a long time, kaya ang dami kong nakitang pagbabago dito. Actually, yung lolo ko ay merong isang lupa sa Marilao. So actually, dati dinadaanan namin ito at hindi pa Valenzuela noon, Polong at siyempre yung pagkain dito ay talagang very, very famous. So, ang paksa sa akin at binigay sa akin ay ang pre-war period, pero sinama ko na rin ang panahon ng Hapon, ng World War II, kasi marami nang sinulat ang mga Hapon tungkol kay Aguinaldo at hindi pa natin masyadong nalalaman tungkol dito. So, mahaba yung pre-war period, so isa-summarize ko na lang yung ibang mga sinulat. And of course, yung isang issue ng pre-war period was buhay pa si Aguinaldo, buhay pa si Valenzuela, buhay pa si yung mga major players ng revolution ay buhay na buhay pa. Sina General Sandico, sina General Alejandrino, at aktibong-aktibo sila. Yung iba pasok sa politika, naging gobernador, at very active sila ng panahon na yon. At yung isang punto din na makikita natin sa pre-war period ay hindi pa ganun ka-develop yung history as a discipline. Yung transition period kasi yung mga historiador ng late Spanish period ay na-inspire sila, na-educate sila dun sa European method of history at that time, which was really not yung modern system natin. Yung sistema natin, academic history, footnotes, bibliography, kailangan mong i-cite yung sources. Noong panahon na yon, late 1800s, early 1900s, hindi pa ganun ka-systematic yung history natin. So, hindi, yung iba sinusulat ng libro, walang bibliography, at mahaba yung mga quotations. And of course, yung mga unang mga sumulat tungkol sa kasaysayan natin noong panahon ng Amerikano, ay siyempre mga Amerikano mismo. So, kung titignan natin yung mga sinulat ng mga Amerikano, next slide, meron mga tinatawag ng imperialistic writings. At ito yung talagang sinusuportahan nila yung takeover ng Pilipinas. So, mga Republican writers, mga government officials, at kung familiar tayo sa mga sinulat ng panahon ng Amerikano, yung kay James Leroy, Americans in the Philippines, yung classic work ni Worcester, The Philippine Islands, at yung hindi na natala na yung work ni John Taylor on the Philippine insurgency against the Americans. Ang main point dito ay palaging nilalabas si Aguinaldo bilang isang insurgent. Ang tawag na nila Philippine Insurrection, hindi Phil-American War, hindi Revolution, insurgency ang tawag nila doon. So, si Aguinaldo daw ay isang insurgent leader, selfish for power, at inexperienced. Batang-bata kasi si Aguinaldo ng panahon na yon. So, if you realize how young he was, 20s lang siya, sinasabi na wala siyang experience, hindi niya kaya, at very, very selfish for power. At ang sinasabi din ng Amerikanong mga nagsusulat, ay Tagalog movement lang ito. Hindi ito nationalist movement. Yung isang fina-focus din nila was basically yung sabi na elite-driven yung revolution. Kaya yung mga leaders, yun ang fina-focus nila doon sa mga sinusulat nila. But hindi yung mass-based. Sabi walang alam yung mga masa. So, hindi totoo na mass-based movement yung Katipunan. Yun ang sinusulat nila para i-justify nila yung takeover nila kasi kulang yung leadership, hindi supportado ng tao. Kaya ang main point ng American imperialistic writing, so hindi pa tayo handa sa kasarinlan at kailangan nilang pumasok. Even in the anti-imperialist writings, no? May mga anti-imperialist writers, next slide, by the 1920s, si Morfield's Story at ang iba ay talagang sumusulat na yung American takeover of the Philippines. Little more favorable, anti-colonial, pero hindi pa rin masyadong mataas ang paningin nila sa mga Pilipino. The first real history of the Philippines ng panahon ng Amerikano ay yung textbook, school textbook ni Barrows, History of the Philippines ito. Ito ay kauna-unahang textbook on Philippine history. Sinulat ito ng isang Amerikano, but if you look at the periodization niya, last two chapters, mahaba yung description niya tungkol sa panahon ng Kastila, but the last two chapters, Progress and Revolution yung second to the last, 1837 to 1897. So doon umabot sa Katipunan. And then all of a sudden, mag-shift na yung last chapter, America and the Philippines. So walang Philippine-American War, wala yung nationalist, pati yung Declaration of Independence, 1898. hindi na sinama dito, 1890s hanggang 1897 na lang. Tapos dumating ng mga Amerikano at nawala na yung independence movement natin. So this was the framework that the Americans were using at that time. So kung papalitan na natin yung perspective and we look at yung Filipino historians of that time, next slide. Yung ibang Filipino writers, siguro yung isang pinakakilala, Epifanio de los Santos, dito yung nanggaling yung EDSA, yung isang classic work niya ay The Revolutionists. Pero hindi kasama dito si Aguinaldo. Sino yung pinili ni Epifanio de los Santos dito sa Revolutionists niya? Si Bonifacio, Marcelo H. del Pilar, at sino yung pangatlo? Hindi rin si Luna, hindi niya gusto si Luna. So tatlo lang yung sinulat niya. But he also wrote a classic work, Aguinaldo y su tiempo. But again, ito yung parang journalist literary style yung ginamit niya. Hindi yung more systematic historian style. At yung isang lumabas din na historical writer was Teodoro M. Calao. He wrote, in fact, the first full book on the revolution. Na later on na-translated into English. But yung style niya was really more documentary. Anong nangyari? So parang chronology lang. Anong nangyari, events. Walang kulang sa interpretasyon. And of course, by that time, yung main point ng mga historians natin ay nagpapakita sa Amerikano na kaya din natin sumulat at kaya natin yung kasurinlan. We were ready for independence. But yung style na ginamit niya, long quotations, walang bibliography, hindi ganun ka-strict sa sources, medyo yung lumang style pa rin. Lumalabas by the 1920s yung mga younger Filipino historians, Conrado Minites, Leandro Fernandez, at sumusulat na sila ng sarili nilang Philippine history. So si Conrado Benitez came up with the first Filipino written History of the Philippines textbook, History of the Philippines din. But again, yung focus niya was economic development. So pinapakita niya yung kung gaano ka-develop yung Pilipinas noong 19th century at hindi kailangan ng US. So parang ready na tayo actually for independence. So yung focus niya was on yung kakayahan natin. In fact, most of the writers at that time were trying to show the Americans na ready na tayo, handa na tayo. We were ready for independence bago pa dumating kayo. Si Leandro Fernandez, kumuha siya ng PhD sa US, wrote his brief history of the Philippines, at yung PhD dissertation niya, The Philippine Republic, ay natathala noong 1926. Ito ay tungkol sa Malolos Republic. So this was one of the first books to talk about the Malolos Republic. Siyempre, kailangan ipakita yung galing ng Pilipino. So here, hindi niya finokus dun sa rivalries, kasi lumalabas na rin yung mga kwento tungkol kay Bonifacio and Aguinaldo, the rivalries, Luna, yung pagkamatay ni Luna. They were making this secondary. Halos hindi nila dinidiscuss ito because yung kailangan is ipakita sa Amerikano na kaya natin, na mature na tayo. So we were out to prove to the Americans our capacity for independence and did not focus on political intrigues and disunity. Si Aguinaldo, pinapakita dito sa mga sulat na ito as leader of the Filipinos, as president of the Filipinos, at wala, hindi nila nilalabas yung dumi at the time. Although may mga kwento-kwento, but hindi lumalabas sa mainstream histories yung rivalries at yung mga tanong at that time. So, sabi nga ni Dr. Milagros Guerrero, yung isang dating kasama ko sa department, next slide, she wrote, the Filipino scholars who studied the revolution during the American regime were at the same time polemicists. That means, hindi sila historiador talaga, pero nag-argue sila for Philippine independence. They were polemicists of the independence movement. Only Calao, and later on, Fernandez, would write about the Republic, about the Philippine Revolution. But basically, statement of facts pa lang. Yung interpretasyon, later na yun, yung personal interpretations. By this time also, may mga younger generation, younger historians who were coming out. One can mention Jose P. Santos, yung anak ni Epifanio de los Santos. And Jose P. Santos was interesting kasi nung panahon niya, ini-interview niya yung mga survivors of the revolution. unfortunately at that time wala pa yung mga tape recorder, wala pa yung mga electronic recorders, so sinusulat lang niya yung mga notes niya. But he was able to interview several of the survivors at that time. Siyempre, yung ginawa ni Aguinaldo, tinaguyod niya yung Asociación de los Veteranos de la Revolución. But anyway, you also had people like Agoncillo, Teodoro Agoncillo, Saide. They were emerging, pero batang-bata pa rin sila. But kind of middle ground, si Jose P. Santos was collecting things, writing things, and he was beginning to come out with articles. Yung isang nami-miss natin is when we look at historical writings, usually hinahanap natin is mga libro. And since the mainstream writing at that time was in English, hahanapin natin yung mga sinulat ng mga Pilipino sa English. What we don't realize is na karamihan ng sinulat tungkol sa revolution ay lumabas sa mga periodicals ng panahon na yun, especially in the 1920s. At itong mga personal accounts, dito lumalabas yung mga intriga, yung mga sabi-sabi tungkol sa revolution, but hindi ko mapasok sa mainstream media. So we have to look into the periodicals in Tagalog, in Ilocano, even in Cebuano, at maraming sinulat dito, and Jose P. Santos will try to accumulate a lot of these. Even now, hindi pa rin tayo familiar sa lahat ng mga nasulat tungkol sa panahon na yon. But aside from the writings about Aguinaldo, yung isang gusto ko rin ipalabas dito ay, ano ba yung ginagawa ni Aguinaldo during this time? Familiar tayo, okay, Malolos, Presidente, Proclamation of Independence, but ano ba yung ginagawa ni Aguinaldo during this time? We know, siguro hanggang 1901 lang siguro na na-capture siya sa Palanan, and then after that, dinala siya sa Manila, solitary confinement sa Malacanang, and then eventually he took the oath of office to the Americans. But after the oath-taking and the capture, Aguinaldo stayed away from politics. Unlike the other generals and unlike the other revolutionary leaders na sumali sa local politics, Aguinaldo went into semi-retirement. Doon lang siya sa kawit, doon sa bahay niya. Bumili siya ng lupa. In fact, yung part of the friar lands, bumili siya ng friar lands, not in one blow, pero in installment. So nagbabayad siya in installment. So most of the time during the early American period, medyo tahimik lang siya. He was just in the hacienda, in his kawit home, and he formed the Asociación de los Veteranos de la Revolución. He seldom spoke out kasi although his historical character na siya by this time, hindi siya lumalabas masyado. So he was quiet. But he remained a symbol of independence. So alam ng tao, yun, Cavite, yun pinalabas yung the Proclamation of Independence, yun pinalabas yung flag natin, and so forth. Nagkaroon din ng break siya with Ricardo. I think we know that si Ricardo ay hindi nag-take ng oath of allegiance to the United States at imbes na tumira dito under the American flag, pinili niya yung mag-exilo siya sa Japan. So he was in Japan all this time. So medyo nagkagalit sila doon. Ricardo chose never to surrender. Sabi niya, sumuko si Aguinaldo. So hindi sila nag-usap after that time. There was tension with Quezon also. Diba? Si Quezon ay parang aide-de-camp ni Aguinaldo ng panahon yan. Pero Quezon had very big dreams. Gusto nang tumaas sa politika. So he became local politician, tapos pumasok siya sa National Assembly, and Aguinaldo did not like all of what Quezon was doing. Occasionally, there were articles on Aguinaldo that came out, at mga memoirs na mga revolutionary heroes ay lumabas, yung kay Alejandrino lumabas 1933, pero ito ang mga sinulat sa either local languages or sinulat sa Tagalog. So, yung English versions would only come out after the war. Noong panahon ni Governor General Harrison, binigyan si Aguinaldo ng annual pension ng 12,000 pesos a year. So, in a way, ito ay nakatulong sa kanya, and it showed a response from the government, and the government recognized him. American Governor General pa rin ang lumagda doon sa batas na yon, Act 2922. So, si Harrison mismo ang nagsuporta doon sa recognition kay Aguinaldo. But there were still the controversies about those. There were still controversies among those old enough to remember. I think 1920, kung yung mga Katipuneros were mid-20s noong 1890s, by the 20s they were only in their 40s. So very active pa sila, very mature. So yung lumalabas na kwento, bakit pinatay si Bonifacio, anong nangyari sa Tejeros, bakit pinatay si Luna, these were coming out, pero sabi-sabi lang. There was nothing conclusive, and the historians were not trying to take it out. There was politics in it. Yung sinasabi na yung kaso ng Bonifacio's bones, na nahukay daw yung mga buto ni Bonifacio at i-exhibit daw sa National Museum noon. Sino ang mag-gain dito? Siyempre mga kaaway ni Aguinaldo. So there was this, and then in 1933, si General Pantaleon Garcia ay nagpalabas ng isang artikulo tungkol sa execution ni o pagkamatay ni Luna, and he blamed Aguinaldo for this. Interestingly, si Jose P. Santos ay naging instrumental in publishing this. But if you look at General Pantaleon Garcia, bakit niya nilabas ito in 1933? Siya pala ay yung Master of Arms or Sergeant at Arms of the Senate, at sino yung presidente ng Senate at the time? Quezon. So di ba nagka-idwaan ng Quezon and Aguinaldo at this time? Quezon was working for politics, of course. And yung gusto ni Aguinaldo, immediate independence, immediate, complete independence. Yung ginagawa ni Quezon, slow independence, transition. So ayaw ni Aguinaldo ito. And isang problema din na nakita ni Aguinaldo about Quezon was Quezon tended to be very personal. Siya yung ginagamit niya yung personal politics, yung itong mga anong tawag natin dito, patrinos, yung mga patron-client relationship. Ayaw ni Aguinaldo yun. Sabi niya, dapat yung ma-recognize yung taong bayan, yung masa, hindi galing sa taas yung poder. So, we have these distinctions between Aguinaldo and Quezon. Of course, lumalabas na itong mga younger historians, and they were starting to come out, pero it's after the war that they would make themselves felt. Ngayon, 1935, na-inaugurate yung Commonwealth. 1932, actually, dinidiscuss na sa states yung tinatawag na Hair Horse Cutting Act. Ito yung 10-year transition period, magkakaroon ng semi-autonomous government in the Philippines. But Aguinaldo would step in. One of the few times he would make himself vocal. In the 1920s, lumabas siya, speaking in favor actually of General Wood, Governor General Wood. Sabi niya, okay naman yung mga ginagawa ni General Wood. So doon sila nagbanggaan ng Quezon. 1932, nag-team up si Aguinaldo with Sumulong, and they created a new party to try to really fight for immediate independence and total independence. Kaya ayaw niya yung Hair Horse Cutting Act kasi ito hindi masyadong mahaba yung transition period. Kung magkakaroon ng transition period, 2 years lang sana, 3 years. So ayaw niya ito. Even the provisions of the Tidings of Daffy Act, nakita niya na politika yung ginagawa ni Quezon at pumunta siya doon para makuha yung Tidings of Daffy Act. Pero interestingly enough, pati si Tidings mismo pumunta dito sa Pilipinas at kinonsulta yung mga tao dito, and he went and visited Aguinaldo. So ganun ang stature ni Aguinaldo at that time, not only locally but even outside. Alam ng mga Amerikano, importante, historical itong taong ito. So even Tidings, the author of the Tidings of Daffy Act, came to the Philippines at binisita niya si Aguinaldo together with Governor General Murphy. 1935, nung nagkaroon ng presidential elections, tumakbo si Aguinaldo. One of the very few times that he tried to enter politics. Na marami ang tanong, bakit tumakbo si Aguinaldo? In fact, up until May 1935, hindi pa siya desidido. Sabi niya, yung mga kaibigan niya ay sinasabi, tumakbo ka against Quezon. Ikaw ang magiging alternative kay Quezon. Ayaw nang pumasok sa politika. But by May, sabi niya, tatakbo na rin siya. And naghanap siya ng isang running mate. Wala siyang mahanap na vice president actually, and for a long time. And nahanap niya si Judge Raimundo Melisa from Iloilo. Magandang balance ito. Taga Luzon si Aguinaldo, and then si Melisa would be from Iloilo, sa Visayas. At si Melissa ay miyembro din ng Katipunan at lumaban din sa Philippine-American War. Gumawa sila, nagtaguyod sila ng National Socialist Party, but siyempre malakas yung pwersa ni Quezon at natalo sila. But Aguinaldo complained of rampant cheating, although he could not prove it. Ayaw niya talaga yung personal style of management ni Quezon. But anyway, natalo siya. There was a lot of controversy after that, pero tinanggap din niya yung pagkatalo niya. During the Commonwealth period itself, critical si Aguinaldo tungkol sa National Defense Act ni Quezon. Sabi niya masyadong mahal ito, and so forth. He favored economic development. At yung isang major platform niya sana was to feed the poor. Dapat alisin ang paghihirap sa Pilipinas, which he saw the Commonwealth government as not doing. Kinriticize din ni Aguinaldo yung 1940 constitutional amendments na tinulak ni Quezon. What were these constitutional amendments? Una, yung extension of presidential term of office from 6 years to 4 years with re-election possibility, so 8 years maximum. And then yung reinstatement of the Senate. Ayaw ni Aguinaldo yung Senate kasi sabi niya, only the rich people could afford to become senators kasi national level na yung Senate. So, yung nangyari was nagkaroon ng higwaan between Aguinaldo and Quezon, who ironically were together during the Philippine War. Next slide. So itong retrato na ito ay kinuha ng panahon ng Commonwealth, and it shows kung makabasa kayo ng pictures, there is tension here between Quezon and Aguinaldo. One of the few times that they actually met. But, you see that Quezon, gumanti siya kay Aguinaldo. One thing Quezon did was he abolished Aguinaldo's pension. So di ba may pension si Aguinaldo of 12,000 pesos a year. Tinanggal ni Quezon ito. So ginawang personal ito. And then even part of the land that Aguinaldo was slowly paying by installment, sabi ni Quezon, hindi nababayaran ni Aguinaldo yung lupa on time. So kinuha ng gobyerno yung bahagi ng lupa ni Aguinaldo. But Aguinaldo was still the symbol of the revolution and struggle for independence. At ito ngayon lumalabas, every birthday ni Jose Rizal, June 19, lumalabas yung mga veterans of the Republic and the veterans of the Revolution. Even the Americans recognized niya na malakas si Aguinaldo bilang symbol of state, symbol of freedom, symbol of the revolution. These are stills from a documentary called March of Time na ginawa ng 1940. And it recognized that yung bahay ni Aguinaldo sa Kawit, we see there. And yung sa harapan, nandun yung Philippine flag, but during the Commonwealth, kailangan ipalipad din yung American flag side by side with the Philippine flag. Kaya yung isang picture shows both of the flags flying. But it also shows Aguinaldo meeting with people in his house in Kawit. So, pati yung Amerikano, nirecognize nila na symbol si Aguinaldo of Philippine independence. But by 1941, nagkaroon na ng ulap ng digmaan. And in 1941, when the clouds of war started to come, Aguinaldo actually urges his veterans, his Association of Veterans, to unite. At sinabi niya sa mga Pilipino, kailangan tayong magkaisa. Stand by the US and be prepared, sabi niya. He even cabled Washington, D.C., President Roosevelt at the Senate to make the Philippines independent right away at gawing neutral ang Pilipinas para hindi na mararanasan ito ang digmaan. But, nag-umpisa nga yung digmaan and we were caught up in the Second World War. One contribution Aguinaldo had at this time was siya yung nag-suggest kay Quezon na kailangan ipalipad natin, pakita natin yung watawat natin ay nasa state of war. So yung red side up. Si Aguinaldo mismo ang nagsabi nito kay Quezon, and Quezon issued an executive order which flew the Philippine flag red side up. Si Aguinaldo also suggested to Quezon to declare Manila an open city, which Quezon also did. But sabi ni Aguinaldo, hanggang doon lang siya. In his memoirs would say, he did not offer his services to Quezon kasi Quezon was jealous of me, sabi daw ni Aguinaldo. So anyway, so nandun pa rin yung issues at the time. No? So panahon na ng occupation, ano yung ginawa ni Aguinaldo ng panahon ng Hapon? When the Japanese came in, the Japanese actually looked up to Aguinaldo very highly. Even before the war, 1930s, sumusulat na sila ng mga libro tungkol kay Aguinaldo. It's only now that we are becoming familiar with some of the biographies they were writing about him. In fact, there was one book called The Correct Philippine History. At ito ay nakafocus sa revolution at nakafocus ito kay Aguinaldo. So, noong panahon ng Hapon, Aguinaldo became part of the Council of State, which was above the Executive Commission. He signed the letter of January 1942 to cooperate with the Japanese, kasama sina Vargas, sina Laurel, at si Ileto. One of the more controversial things na ginawa ni Aguinaldo during the war was, noong February 1942, nag-broadcast siya ng personal appeal to MacArthur to surrender. Of course, February 1942, kaumpisa lang ng labanan sa Bataan. But what was the logic that Aguinaldo was saying here? Para ma-spare, para kumonti ang destruction, ang pagsira dito sa Pilipinas, at kukonti ang mamamatay. He was doing this because of experience. Alam niya kung anong nangyayari ng panahon ng Iba't. He saw people die. So he did not want this to happen. Yung sa memoirs niya, he would keep on saying, kawawa yung Pilipinas, and I wanted to spare the Philippines that pain, war again. Aguinaldo became part of the Preparatory Commission for Philippine Independence in 1943. Ito yung grupo ng elite Filipinos who were tasked to frame the Philippine Constitution of 1943. But he offered to resign because one of the members of the commission said hindi siniseryosahan ang mga members ng commission na ito. So he offered to resign at hindi na siya nag-attend ng mga meetings. But in the end, he signed the Constitution of 1943. Yung isang punto din na medyo controversial sa kanya during the war was nagpadala siya ng mga sulat to guerrilla leaders urging them to surrender. Sina Confessor, sina Ibang, and elsewhere. He wrote this. Later on, he would say na ghost-written lang daw itong mga sulat. But we're not sure exactly. But again, yung main point niya was, alam niya na masasaktan ang Pilipino, and he did not want to see that happen. Isang punto din ng mga kaaway ni Aguinaldo ay sinabi na meron siyang retrato o may portrait siya ng Emperor Hirohito dun sa opisina niya sa Kawit. But he would rationalize this to say, how could I get respect from the Japanese? Kung makikita nila yung portrait ng Emperor dun, magbabaw kagad sila. And they would have to respect him. So, dalawang retrato dito ang next papakita ko. One is Aguinaldo with a Japanese officer. Kita natin na matangkad si Aguinaldo at mas pandakan, Japanese officer. So, we have a subliminal message here in the photography. And then the other one is a big parade in Luneta. Kitang-kita si Aguinaldo kasi distinctive yung haircut niya. So, you can recognize him in any of the pictures at the time. Palaging ganun ang haircut niya. So, again, it was really, one would wonder, bakit ginawa ni Aguinaldo ito ng panahon na yun? And it would seem that he was doing this basically because gusto nang protektahan ang Pilipinas at ang mga Pilipino. But the more interested ones in the Philippines at this time were the Japanese talaga. May mga historiador at may mga writers in Japan who were interviewing Aguinaldo even before the war at sinusulat nila yung biography ni Aguinaldo. The first biography by a Japanese of Aguinaldo came out as early as 1903. At yung tawag dito, Aguinaldo talaga. Aguinaldo at the Independence War ng Pilipinas. This was reprinted in 1942. And several books on the revolution also. Interesado yung mga Hapon dun sa Philippine Independence Mission. Kung familiar tayo sa Nunobiki Maru, ito yung barko na hinire ni Mariano Ponce at nagpapadala sana ng armas dito sa atin, pero dumubog siya on the way to Taiwan. Inimbestigahan din ito ng mga Japanese writers and they published a book on it.